Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Drawing Down the Dragon. I'm Snappy, and I'm joined today by my dear friend Shay. How's it going, Shay?
Good. We're in Australia, but it's a bit of a dark, cold, overcast day here. I live in a cloud forest, and so when the clouds come in, they really come in.
Right, yeah, you were telling me it's only 10 degrees, right? Which is pretty cool.
uh,
You're closer to what I'm usually getting here. Right now we're a little
yeah,
warm, 15.
yeah. This is an alpine region of Australia. Even though we're in the tropics, we're up so high, it gets very
Right,
cold. Yeah, and we're going into winter. It's May. We're
right.
only like one. Yeah, we're going heading full steam into winter now, so it's getting cool.
It's so interesting, right? Like we didn't even have a spring this year. No spring, and it's about to just come into winter. It's kind of wild. What was it like for you?
Mm.
Did you guys have you been
Yeah,
transitioning in easily into winter or?
yeah. But I noticed that as well. We had a mild summer, which usually means a cold winter. So we're
Mm.
getting ready. We had our first winter up here last year and it got quite cold. We had what we call fake snow, which is where you get hailstones where the hail is so fine it looks like snow.
Oh,
And
wow.
but we've got our fingers crossed. Apparently, it snows up here about every 10 years. So we've got our fingers crossed for snow this year. Because, yeah. So if it
But I'm
snows, I'll send
excited.
you photos.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, yeah, send me. That's fun, right? But I'm
Pho-
excited to chat
Photos
with
of
you.
snow.
Oh,
I'll send you
good.
photos of snows on the palm trees.
Yeah, right? Now that is something to be seen. Wild,
Yeah.
wild. I know I had some friends growing up who would work like because we have such a big like winter culture here. So
Mm.
they would spend their winters here and they'd teach like snowboarding and skiing, and then they'd fly to Australia for the summers and teach
Yeah.
winter sports down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we do. We've got some very popular alpine regions where there's lots of snow. In fact, my husband won a gold medal for skiing within the police Olympics. So he's
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Good for
yeah,
him.
he's a mad surfer and he's a skier. So how do you get that happening? So
Wild
yeah,
culture, right?
yeah,
But I'm excited to be here with you today, Shay. It's been a little while. There's been some wildness going on, and so we've missed a few of the occult explorers. But we decided to get together to just have
yeah,
a chat and to go over some of your more recent research and such. So
yeah,
I want to.
sure.
I've been I've been checking out. You've been doing a bunch of these shorts lately, which have been really,
I
really
know.
interesting and diving deep into the Greek. So what's been your experience with these shorts?
Well, isn't it interesting that sometimes the enemy is responsible for creating the monster? And I feel like I wouldn't have done these shorts. Like I felt the whole thing started because Madalena got attacked. And I've
Right.
had Neil attack me about 12 months ago about hermetics, which we'll discuss today. And I can't stand to see that sort of thing happening because it was with drink. He's drinking online and people forget that. And you could see him picking up the glass while he's talking to her, going, I got the purple here. But the stuff he was saying, Magdalena wasn't prepared to answer. I
No.
mean, I couldn't answer them without proper research. I can't quote sources, and I'm 63. I need some time to put my shit together. And so
Well,
I
she
put
wasn't
put
prepared for a pop quiz, as far as I understand, is that he had asked her to come on to translate text, and then she comes on and he tries to embarrass her, tries
of
to give
course.
her like a quiz on the nature of Greek and asking her all about, oh, do you know what the dative is? Do you know what this is? And,
And as
you
soon as
know,
she makes a point that's backed up by the other academic, he changed topic.
yeah,
It was a total drunken male bullying situation. He just wanted an argument. I mean, if you're ever in a situation like that with somebody who is on substances, walk away. There is no winning
yeah.
the argument. I mean, she held her space with dignity, but it was really painful for other people to watch for her. It
It
was, yeah,
was. But, ultimately, I feel that DK prevailed because what
yeah,
happened was anyone I have spoken to generally, they don't remember the arguments, they remember the bullying. And
yeah.
they see the ambush, they saw the thumbnail,
Mhm.
so it just looked ridiculous. And then
It
thankfully
did.
we did have a couple people from the community who showed up and did
Yeah,
put Neil in his place a bit, like Josh
yeah, Yeah,
who's a beloved congregation member, and of course Tiger Shark, who's here in your
yeah,
chat. And they were both very, very
yeah,
good and were able to challenge
mm,
Neil. But we saw Neil freak out on both of their heads. you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Yeah, it was totally unreasonable. They gave him an hour. And what I was doing in the comments was he's going, "Where's your sources?" So I'm online and I can look up the sources really quick and go, "Here's a source, here's a source, here's a source." And stop spamming me with all those answers. It's like, but you just asked that question. So I thought what it made me realize is like Dr. Ammon is really good at explaining stuff, but he's got very long videos. And sometimes people just need a quick, short answer, which is what he was asking for. So I thought, oh, if I can do the research in 3 minutes and explain it in one text comment online, I can do a short form video and explain these points with the research, and people have got a quick answer if they need to. So that's why I started doing this series. And I thought I only to start off with, I thought I just answer the three main questions, the four main questions, the fifth question. And it's just kept going. People
Right.
keep asking other questions online and it just keeps. So I think it's a new form I'll be doing, and it seems to be getting a good response. People seem to be understanding what I'm presenting, and understanding that there's research behind it. And they can look, obviously, I can't quote all the sources in 3 minutes, but I give enough. So here's the book, go read it. Here's the link, go look at it. So,
And you're
yeah. So,
presenting it in a very academic way where you're showing the sources and you're asking questions, and we're doing it you're doing it in a method that's suitable for our modern kind of short-term memory span, as you're saying, where it's like,
yeah,
look, here's some sources, here's the question. I'm not making a definitive anything. Look for yourself and think about it,
I
right? And I
hate,
really appreciate that kind of style.
yeah, I hate telling people to think. You know,
Mm.
I mean, I want people to think, but I'm not going to say think this way. I've had my experiences that make me think this way, but I think that's what I like about Dr. Ammon's work is he's going learn the Greek and read it for yourself, guys. Make your own decision. But hey, I found this. Isn't this interesting? So I like the way that he does that as well. So, but yeah, but that's I go, well, what do you think? What do you think in the end? And it's been the best way of finding out what people do think. And then I can do another video that leads down that path. Like I did one last night, just on like people were quoting sources from the Bible and going, oh, they're much older than what you're saying. I'm going, well, actually, it's not. You look at these documents, and the primary source might be a tiny fragment like that, right? And they know that that fragment is part of what is now this big text. But getting
Right.
from there to here is a huge piece of evolution. And we can actually see with the Dead Sea Scrolls that this was an evolution of thought. It wasn't that God came down and went, hey, this is exactly what I want you to say. People were thinking about this and writing different things that started as this and ended up as this. It's like the Chinese whisper thing is proven by the the Dead Sea Scrolls, but you know, the,
Like
I
my
just
biggest thing about
hate
this is like
dogma. Yeah.
I don't necessarily care about like what came first, the chicken or the egg or any of that. Though what I'm looking for is where's the literature?
Mm,
Where is the texts? Where
mhm,
is the discussion? You're telling
mhm.
me this is all happening exclusively within this small group and that we cannot witness the evolution? I disagree because we just see it happening in other languages that are in that same area. If all of a sudden you don't this is something that I have as an issue in general with religion studies. Religion
Mhm.
studies tends to analyze any ideology from the constraints in which it places upon itself. So it's
Yeah.
going to look at the Judaic religions, the Abrahamic religions, as sort of this construct that is talking only at itself. And then they purposely exclude all of the other mythologies and
Mm,
ideas that are
mm,
extraneous, that are
mm,
different, that
mm.
challenge, right? They
Yeah.
want to know what these groups said about themselves and thought about themselves. But the problem
Yeah.
that is now you're dealing with a constructed history. You're only seeing one perspective, right?
Yeah.
And you're allowing these people to speak entirely for themselves and define themselves. And that
Mm,
is just like, okay, so that's just mythology. Like it's a valid perspective, but until you can compare and contrast it, how is that a reasoned approach? How is that a holistic approach? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
it's
so
very hard
much.
to do. Very hard to
Go
do
ahead.
any research without confirmation bias, because most people go into research looking for something. But the problem that we've had is that, and I might do a short video on this, is the British Archaeological Society was sponsored and owned. Well, I'd say owned, but largely sponsored by the Catholic Church.
Right.
And they had for so long their 7,000 year creation agenda, right? And then when science got to the point where, well, you can't have that anymore, it's like, well, Christianity is this agenda, go and find those, and they would fund expeditions to back up what they're looking for. And that's why they bring things back. It wasn't just a random stealing from cultures. They brought back from cultures things that would confirm their bias. So yeah, when you can really look at things, and I think this is a challenge for all of us, we have to look at that. We have our preconceived ideas about things. Can we look beyond that and just go, that's an interesting thought? You don't have to accept it, but just go, is that an interesting thought? I'll leave that there. Maybe it'll connect with something else later on, and just present the fact. It's like that text that the Theophrastus text that Jason
The
found.
Jason found that was so brilliant.
Oh my God, 2,600 years ago, right?
Right.
2,600 years ago. That's way before any of the fragments that we have of the Bible. And there's the word Satanus, you know,
Yeah.
so Satinius, actually. And it's there. It's right there, and he's found it outside of the Bible, because looking within the Bible and only within biblical texts, no matter what language they are, is a closed circuit. Here's something outside that circuit. All right, so it's got to make you think, So
Right.
here is something that they brought into the Bible, and they've done what every previous religion has done. They've demonized it, and then continue to demonize it, and it happens. Once somebody does bad behavior, they double down on it. You know, we can't have the gods of the previous regime be superior to the gods of the conquering regime. So they demonize them, double down on them. I did a book about this called Demonology, in which we go back through all of the cultures. Rome did it to Greece. Greece did it to Persia. Persia did it to the Medes, and and it goes back. They demonize their gods.
Well, it's more than
And
that, is because we have this whole political, you know, it's too many people don't view religion through the lens of economics and politics. And
mm,
so much of everything is defined by these aspects, right? It's all
yeah,
political, and it's about
yeah,
creating and
or
establishing an identity. And this is what I see so much happening with the Abrahamic religions, right? It's like this is a construct for political means that's been hugely important for various empires across
yeah,
civilization, right?
yeah,
Like, and it only becomes problematic because people identify with this as a religious ideal, as an idea that explains all of reality. If we were to divorce ourselves from this mythopoetic vision of what religion is supposed to be and teach
mhm,
it and look at it as a political construct, then we can
mhm,
start to have a serious conversation. And you see
mhm,
this in some aspects of religion studies. Like, for example, we're
mhm,
talking about Judaism. One of the
mhm,
more popular theories about modern Judaism is that after the after the Babylonians go in and they
mhm,
abduct, right? They abduct
mhm,
all of the Jewish elite and take them back to Babylon. And then we
mhm,
have the Persians come in and
mhm,
free the Jewish elite, take over
yeah,
Babylon, and establish Israel again as a state.
mhm,
We have a
mhm,
reorganization of the biblical Talmud. We have the
mhm,
appearance of the Exodus story. And what does this
mhm.
all serve to do? It
Create
promotes.
a social identity. Yeah.
But it also works in the advantage of the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire
Mhm,
needs a buffer state between its holdings in Iraq and
mhm,
it's in Egypt. So the Jewish state becomes that buffer state, becomes this
mhm,
people. They purposely create this mythic identity as anti-Egyptian and as connected to this monotheistic kind of
Yeah,
religiosity, which didn't
yeah.
exist in early Judaism. This is a
No,
result of the influence of Zoroastrianism, right?
exactly. And how can people not see, like Cyrus the Great, by the Jews is
Mhm.
called the
Who is the
Messiah?
Messiah, right?
Yeah, well, he was and still a lot of people think he was the Messiah because he
Right.
freed the people. And but he was a Zoroastrian. He believed in one God. And all
Yep.
of a sudden, go back and build your temple, which is the edict from Cyrus. I'll release you to go back and build your temple. You promote the one God and you
Right.
become our buffer zone. Yeah, so it's very political. And like you've only got to look at like the Maccabees book of the Bible, which is not in the King James version, but it's in the Catholic version. That's so political, and it talks about this struggle and why they were put there. The Bible is a very political book. You know, even the terms it uses in it are military and political, and and for people to see this as a peace, love, brown rice thing when it's really about war and genocide and child sacrifice, you
Well,
know, it's
it blows my mind because when we look at, one of the courses I took that blew my mind in
mhm,
university was studying the adoption of Christianity by the Roman Empire, right? This happens, but a lot of people write about it and they go, you know what?
mm,
Christianity can serve a purpose. It can
mm,
allow us to have a pagan universalism where we can include everyone, but we can also utilize it to exclude everyone. We by making it along moralistic lines, now all of a sudden the state gets to weaponize the religion as a means of control and as a means to seize wealth and power from others. We can now
mhm,
attack all of our pagan neighbors, right? There's no
mhm,
more that guy is not Zeus. You can't just equate yourself with us.
yeah,
You have to abandon your whole identity and
yeah,
become Roman, right?
yeah,
And this serves the empire. And I just don't
mm,
understand how people don't look at this and go, of course the Roman Empire became Christian because
yeah,
it's politically advantageous. It
yeah, and of
allowed them to
course,
do crusades. And what are the crusades about? Colonialism, expanding into the Middle East. And the crusades have never fucking ended, right?
no,
They've never
no,
ended.
no, no, no. Neither have the yeah. We still have popes that are the head of the Inquisition. So
Yeah.
there's the last pope was the head of the Inquisition. That was his title. Um, but people can see. It wasn't just Rome at the time when that happened. There was the Byzantine Empire, right?
Right.
And it was a struggle between the two. And the Byzantine Empire was more Christian than what Rome was. So, by adopting this, they were like trying to take the power away from the Byzantine Empire as well.
Well, you get this interesting
Let's,
thing, right? Because in the
yeah.
early stages, when they first adopt Christianity, they're fairly united. You do have the dual emperors, but Constantine sets up Byzantium. And then there
Mm-hmm,
becomes this later division, and it's largely
mm-hmm,
along linguistic roots. And
mm-hmm,
this is because, right, Ammon is always trying to emphasize the philosophical density of the Greek. And to me, there is no better example than the first Christian crusade against Byzantium. Because why do the Latins crusade against Byzantium? Because of the
which is Christian. Yeah.
misinterpretation of the word eidolon, right? Eidolon becomes reduced in the Latin to imago, the image, right?
Mm-hmm,
They're not talking about the image. They're talking about creating the divine through art, through beauty, and making love to this art object. That is
mm-hmm,
not just an image. So in Byzantine Christianity, you can have two-dimensional flat images. You can have
mm-hmm,
all of this art because it's not seen as
mm-hmm,
idolatry. But in
mm-hmm,
the Latin, all of a sudden, for at least a short time, and at least
mm-hmm,
for those outside of the church, all
mm-hmm,
images are evil, as we see
mm-hmm.
even with later Islamic religions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this becomes the impetus for that crusade. They
Mm-hmm,
literally go and kill their neighbors, their supposed Christian brothers, over a philosophical disagreement based on a mistranslation of
yeah.
Greek, you
Yeah.
know
I know. And when you go back and you have a look at what Alexander the Great did, he was
Mm,
like, you can be Greek as long as you learn the language. Right.
right.
So it wasn't a philosophical thing. He was
No.
like, you can have the tax benefits, you can be a citizen, you just have to learn the language. And he encouraged a trade in ideas. Right? The best thing you could do was to bring new concepts. There was that was a currency, you know. And when he went to India, and I know you're going to discuss this next time with Dion, is
Mhm.
this trade that he created and this is why Greek culture is so expansive, because if you've got an idea, great, write it down in Greek. So instead of robbing people of what they believed, all they had to do is be able to write it down, you know,
Right.
and it created a huge empire, much bigger than the Roman Empire. You know, it was in terms of where it reached. And above and beyond that, it was the trade in ideas. And I think this is why the appeal of the old Greek texts are so good, because they just write shit down without a filter. You know?
Right.
It's like, let's just get all this
But it's
knowledge
like,
down. Leave it.
it's also
Yeah.
interesting you bring up Alexander, and to
Mm,
me, I look at the various Alexandrian romances, right, which change Alexander from a man into the son of Zeus Ammon. And I
yeah,
look
of
at these
course.
texts and the parallels to the gospel are immediate. And it's
Yeah.
like, how can you think that this Christian ideology arises out of nothing, whole cloth? That
Yeah.
it's only within this little Jewish. You think the Jewish people are isolated from the rest of the world? You think they're not talking with everyone else? You're
Mm,
acting like they're not right there in the
mm,
middle of all of these grand empires, Persia to the north, Egypt to the south, Greece
mhm,
right across the Mediterranean. Like, give me a
mhm.
break.
Yeah.
People are not
And
stupid,
and they got into bed with them all. It was like the Macarena, you know. I
Right, of
got a little
course.
Wendy on this side. I got a little, Greece over here. I got a little Egypt up above.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's true
So,
though.
yeah, it is. You know, of course they're going to be doing somebody else's dance. They've got to include everybody. They're a tiny nation that's at a land bridge. At
And
a land
the
bridge.
Greek is such a lingua franca. Like, one
Yeah.
of my favorite authors of all time is Lucian of Samosata, the satirist, right?
Yeah.
And Lucian is famously a Syriac speaker, but he condemns his own Syriac language and says it's not good enough for writing.
Mm,
And anyone who's serious about writing adopted the Greek. And this is
mm,
around the time that the Bible is being written, around 70 AD to
mm,
150 AD, right? Is
mhm,
is when Lucian is roughly around. So it's like, this is just the way the culture was then. Everyone was
mm,
writing in Greek. Greek
mm.
was the height of literature. It's like
Yeah.
today when everyone is writing in English. If you want to be heard, if you want
Yeah.
to be taken seriously, you're
Yeah.
doing it in Greek,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they were, I mean, it was Latin for a long time. Latin was not that long ago, the language of the educated was Latin. And if,
Right.
Queen Elizabeth the First to be taken seriously had to be able to tell jokes in Latin, right? So, it was considered to be an educated language, but it has limits. And the limits of the Latin is that it's heavily indoctrinated in one world point of view. Um, I mean, going back to Alexander the Great, yeah, he did all of he took the myths, and I love how he turned up. Which temple was it he turned up at? And he went, "You're going to say that I'm the son of Zeus. I have my
Siwa,
army outside."
Siwa, the
Yeah,
temple of
yeah,
Zeus Ammon at Siwa,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
which is
And he
where
said, "I
the
have my
original
army
Sybil
outside,
is,
and we're not leaving until the Sybil said." And she goes, "Okay, all right, you're done."
right? And this is something that's so wild to me. It's like, when we look at that ancient world, Alexander has to go to the Sybil. The Sybil
Mhm,
is the seat of power. In order to
mm,
be the god king,
mhm,
he has to be blessed and said so by the Sybil, you know?
mhm,
And this is what Libya is, right? Libya is just a rearranging of that name, Sybil.
mhm,
Even the Islamic devil, Iblis, just a rearranging of that feminine Sybil. Look at
mhm,
Asherah in the Jewish tradition,
mhm,
right? They're rejecting the feminine. They're
mhm,
dumbing that down, and they're vilifying that old world power that came before them in order
mhm,
to. This is also something that political people do. If you can't do what Alexander did and force
mhm,
the Sybil to name you God, then you satirize and
mhm.
vilify and turn them
Yeah.
into Satan. and you
Yeah.
have your own new form of legitimacy, right? It's
Yeah.
all politics. It's all
Yeah.
about that legitimacy, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, but I just like how he didn't reject things. He like
Right.
included things. He included things. And by
Yeah,
the inclusion of these ideas in the Greek, it made his nation more powerful. Yeah, let's
absolutely.
yeah. So but yeah, the following ones didn't seem to quite get that.
No, because I think that, with Alexander, and like we can see this in the roots, is that when
Mm,
you go into the depths of the Greek, the Chaldean, the Egyptian, there are so many, and this is where we'll get into Hermeticism with you. It's like
mm.
the similarities are so profound. To think that they're not coming from an earlier root, or to think that they're not in intimate connection, is just to be beyond ignorant, you know?
Well, think about the nativity story. You know, they
Mm,
put the three wise men, which is one wise man in one of the gospel accounts, but they put the three wise men in there for no reason other than to give the kingship legitimacy from the magic practitioners, from the
yeah.
Magi, right? The Persian Empire and Zoroaster and their magic is saying that this is the real king, right? Not um, what's his name? Not the Herod, not Herod Antipas. No, no, no. We've come to look for the real king. They even knock on the king's door, and the king Herod is very famous for killing people, and he's too scared to kill him. You
Right.
know, So and after that, there's no other mention of it. They saw the star, the signs were in the heaven, we gave him the gifts, we did his initial anointing, he's the real king. And politics, it's not like we are looking for the people who are going to save our soul. No, 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 no. We're looking for the real king. It is a political statement backed up by the Persians,
Right.
and it's
And
put into the Bible.
this image of the Magi, and this image too of the Egyptian magical priests. This is something that's so profound too at this time, that a lot of people don't realize. Like, this is again something that just blows my mind. Like, I don't know why people don't read Morton Smith.
Mm,
Morton Smith found the secret gospel of Mark, which of course
mhm,
now the Catholics, or the Orthodox, have famously lost somehow, but
mhm,
he found it and now it's
mhm.
disappeared. But
Eh,
if you read, he has this great book though called Jesus the Magician, and he goes through all of these Greek
mhm.
sources, and what are these contemporaneous people who are writing in Greek saying? Jesus looks like a magi. He looks
Yeah.
like a priest of Isis. He's doing all this weird magical stuff. He's casting out demons. I think he sounds like a cult leader. He looks like Alexander, like it's
Yeah.
kind of wild. And people just
Yeah.
want to pretend that this isn't happening. But again, it's like if you look at the external culture outside of Judaism, this is what they
Mhm.
viewed him as,
Yep.
right? He's a radical
Absolutely.
magical practitioner, a cult leader, according to them.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'll see on my channel, there's a lot of stuff about Apollonius there. And
Mm,
Apollonius he made no bones about being a magician, but
right.
he is about spiritual philosophy, he is about ethics, and all of the stuff that really isn't there in the Bible. You know, he didn't eat meat, he wouldn't wear leather, he had to have linen and special shoes made for himself, and he was a scientist. Like, people keep asking me for, and I don't quite know how to do it yet, but
And
it'll
he's
come
only
to me.
70 years after Christ, right?
No,
Like,
no,
yeah.
no, no, not
Yeah, that's when
70
they
years
write in his
up.
books. Yeah. That's
Oh,
when the
yeah, but
empress
he
has
lived,
his gospel
but
written about.
but he
Yeah.
lived contemporarily at the
Well,
same
they're not, they
time,
don't line up directly, but yeah, they're in the same time period. But yeah,
only by 2 years. It doesn't line up.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd have to. I got to check the source
yeah,
on this because I'm almost
yeah,
positive.
yeah. But the book was written later by the
Right.
mother of,
15
yeah,
A.D. So
yeah,
Apollonius of Tyana, 15 A.D. So you're right, very close.
yeah, yeah. But but he's in Israel, right,
Right.
doing all the same miracles, right, and yet the Bible doesn't mention him at all right? Because he's not political. He is apolitical. He gets used later on by the Byzantine Empire. He becomes the Byzantine Messiah later, and that's why the mother of Elagabalus actually commissions his hagiography to be written, right? So yeah, and that's around 200. So around,
Right.
all around the same time, all the Gospels are being written. But yeah, it's the mother of Elagabalus, and then she's like establishing the fact that, oh, well, they come from the same area, we have this Arabic descent, from the Arabic priestesses, and it's all, yeah, again, it's, post him being there, he's turned into this political thing to the point where the church banned everything about Apollonius. There was massive book burning, and it's a
Yeah.
miracle that the accounts of Apollonius actually survive. They were terrified of the stories of this person who was absolutely a non-agendered magician that was walking through there doing magic all the time. But a lot of it was science too. Like there's an account of him heating a swimming pool. Right. And I've gone in, like, there's a book of the magic of Apollonius, and he's heating a swimming pool. They ask him to heat a swimming pool. And it's like he goes down and with a candle, he heats the whole swimming pool. And I don't know, I'll show you something. I don't know if you ever used these. It's coming to the time of year where I'll use these again. These are a heat condenser. So you can put 2 candles in here and they heat a room, because
Oh,
a candle
wow.
is, yeah. So, and it's
I have
just,
something similar for incense, but yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. No, it's all like terracotta pot under terracotta. So it holds the heat.
Oh,
It
wow.
gets so hot you can't touch the outside. But you can do it with 2 candles, because a candle burns at 351 degrees centigrade. So you put that in there, you've got nearly 1,000 degrees centigrade in there. And it
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
dissipate into the room. It stays in that. And so what he's actually doing is constructing one of these to heat a swimming pool, with a small flame. So, and people go, tell me about the magic of Apollonius. And it's like, okay, he did talismans.
Well, he does do one thing. So because I just
Yeah.
read this Jesus as Magician book,
Mm-hmm.
Morton goes through the hagiography. And one thing that was really wild to me, because of my familiar, and you'll know this because of your familiarity with the PGM, is that
Mm-hmm.
he has this book. I'm trying to remember. It's called the Numentos or Numen. Anyway, it's this magical. It survives to us, not
Yeah.
in the direct Apollonius literature. It actually comes to us from Levi,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a rite of consecration to the 12 hours of the sun, but
Yeah.
it's made it into a monotheistic thing. But when you
Mm-hmm.
look at it, they even maintain some of the Voces Magicae from the PGM version of the same spell, the consecration to the 12 hours of the sun to make the magic ring. Like,
Yeah.
he's doing this kind of stuff. He's a
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
of that magical tradition.
Well, if we stay, I will share. Like, if people stay with us towards the end, I will definitely share the Voca Magi with you, and what we understand. Like, and there's a group of us that's been doing Hermetic workings for a long time, and we actually related it back to this trade in ideas with the Altai-Himalayan region, and using the Greek vowels, but with this technique. So we'll share that at the end. So, or before the end. Keep you hanging, guys. We'll keep you hanging a little while. Yeah. But yeah, no, but the 12 hours, it's interesting because I've just been discussing that with my Hermetic group. And they're like, oh, well, we've got a working to Hecate coming up, which we will do from the Greek Magical Papyrus. And there's lots of amazing workings for Hecate in there.
Mhm.
And they're like, what hour of the night or the day should we do it? And that's, yeah, it's more important when you're doing a Hermetic working to actually work out what's up there above you, right? So because it'll be the dark moon, what's the midday of the dark moon? What's the rise of the dark moon? What's the set of the dark moon? So then you choose that. So that's more important than the 12 hours, because as I was saying to them, once you start doing the 12 hours, okay, where was that written? For what area of the world? Because we were just discussing the fact that I'm going into winter, you're coming into summer. It's afternoon over there. It's 6 o'clock in the morning over here. So, and we've got to hook up with people from around the world. right, that are doing Hermetic working. So what hour of the day are we using? So instead of using the hours of the day, what we do is we actually use the position of the planets, which is what I think the hours of the day were trying to indicate for that period of time, which does change over thousands of years for that area. Even when you speak to Wiccan people, and they go, oh, no, 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 you must call water in the west. But when that was written down, calling water in the west, it's west of Alexandria in Egypt, where they used to do a lot of magic workings. Where is the elements in the land around you? If you're going to go call the water and call the winds, where's that going to come from? What direction is your for us here, fire's in the north, because the further north we go, the warmer it gets. The further north you go, the colder it's going to get. So, you put air in the north, whereas we put air in the south. But that's for where we're at. If we were working somewhere and we had a natural body of water right there, we put the water right there. But because I'm on the east coast of Australia, water's in the east. So you've got to look at this. If we're doing these workings, we want to work with the forces of nature that are around us. And if we're working with the planetes and these, they are a seen being as well as an unseen being. They have a huge personality and a huge influence on us, but you can see them as well as, being unseen. So where are we putting them? So we're timing this at the moment. We're working out that the dark moon rise is actually before sunrise, which is quite traditional for Hecate. So yeah.
Wild
So
stuff.
it's
This takes me back to one of the shorts that you did too, because you pointed out something that many people miss. And this is that Saturn often at certain times of the year will line up directly parallel with Venus and is a light bringing energy, will rise with the sun. And you mentioned too, right? Like Saturn's position in the earliest of these mythopoetic texts is as the stable ruler. He is that one that you measure everything against. And and famously, they call him the OG sun, the original sun, like in the Etruscan, in the Roman texts, right? Saturn was there before Zeus usurps him. And so there is this whole cosmic drama playing out in the stars that they're documenting that people aren't paying attention to,
Yeah. And you've got to pay attention to this. We are star stuff. We are made up of all of these planets. And it pulls on us. We know the moon pulls on us. We know the moon can change our mood, especially for women, we get puffy, so.
Your cycles will sync up with the moon if you're not under all this artificial light,
That's correct. That's correct. We all sync up together and then we sync up with the natural cycles. So, but it's not just the moon. The moon is the one that we see because it's as large as the sun is. And that's the other thing, when you look at the 108, which comes up in all of the Indian culture, always 108 beads, 108 rest.
It also comes up in the Greek though, because that is a division of 9, and 9 is the completing of the cycle and the power of the muses. It's the same idea in the Greek.
Yeah.
They just reduce it to 9.
Well, if you look at the sun and the moon in the sky, did a measurement, they're virtually the same size. Right, as they go through. And that's because, the distance between the Earth and the moon is 108, the diameter of the moon. But the distance, the size of the Earth to the sun is 108. So the Earth is, the sun's 108 times the diameter. Anyway, the ratio is absolutely perfect for the two to be seen in the sky at the same time, to be brother and sister, because of that 108 ratio. So when you do,
amazing.
Yeah. And this is the influence they have on us, this perfect balance. We want to keep them in perfect, but we want to be in balance with them. But Jupiter exerts a huge, you can understand with modern science why they saw him as the god of lightning. How could they know that back then? Because there is lightning flashes happening because it's a liquid metal planet. It attracts, it protects the Earth. It attracts all of the big things that could hit Earth away from Earth. It goes and hits Jupiter instead, and it gets dissolved by lightning. We are only just finding this out now. And so those ancients, we might call it magic, we might call it passing, but they had science that we've lost, right? Because of our losing these Greek texts and losing these sources. And, we've lost so much that we have to rediscover. Every time somebody says in science, I've discovered this, I want to go, no, you've rediscovered it, but good on you.
Or you're
uh,
clarifying what's already been discovered, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
come
yeah.
on, there are no new ideas, you
The
know?
magical practitioners have been telling you this for decades. Give them some credit. Come on.
Yeah. But so much
Yeah.
of that, in the defense of science, so much of that has been occulted and destroyed,
Yes.
which is
Yeah, they were
unfortunate.
burnt. They were burnt along with witches and
Yep,
with their books.
yep.
So I mean, ask Jordan and Bruno.
Exactly, right? And what was Bruno talking about? Oh, there may be aliens. Maybe there's life on other planets. And so what do? They crucify the man.
Let's get rid of that one.
Just
Yeah, they don't.
absolutely insane, you
It
know?
doesn't. Hey, and for anybody that's thinking about killing people because of what they say, it doesn't get rid of what they say. Words stay. That's what writing is. And there's always somebody with the written text somewhere that's got it hidden from you. So it doesn't work. So forget it, guys. Give it up. Over centuries, you've learned it doesn't work. Learn a different. And they are. I mean, you see these days that the best way to deal with people instead of assassinating them is to character assassinate. They do character assassinations now. They, they make them look laughable. They make them look ridiculous rather than have a look at
Well,
what they're
this is
looking at.
this is why it's so absurd. Like, I don't want to get too into our current political
Mm.
thing, but this is why I thought it was so absurd that the Americans are blowing up all the leaders in Iran. And it's like, you're just going to turn them into martyrs. Why wouldn't you just shame them and make them
Yeah.
responsible for the economic collapse of their nation? You've
Mm,
completely failed in all of your expressed goals by
mm,
being warmongering psychopaths. Like, it's just
yeah.
such idiocy. And I don't know. But I want to go
Yeah.
back for a second to Jason Carpenter's research there that you were discussing in your short on
Mm,
the
hmm
Satanico, because you brought up some really interesting things in that short where you mentioned that the word Eden is cognate with Mount Ida. And what's so surprising about all this is that then could potentially recast the Garden of Eden on the island of Crete. But, Greek scholars made these claims. Herodotus famously believed that the Jews were exiled Cretans who were forced out of Crete after the volcanic eruption on Terra and after the mainland Greek immigrations
Yeah.
into Crete, that they
Yeah.
forced out those Cretans. And so
Mm,
it's almost like there's a vilification of the earlier Cretan religion that
mm.
becomes the foundation for the modern Judean religion, you know?
Yeah, Crete is an amazing place. It's not just Judean religion,
No, no, of
you
course, it's
know.
so old and
Yeah,
ancient,
yeah,
right? And
but
there's
there's
many
so
groups there.
much, so many ideas come out of Crete. So much. It's an amazing place. But yeah, but maybe there's another short form video there where we can discuss a few things about hidden, being Ida. Yeah, yeah. It was just I know it was the uh, the feminine ending on the word that gave it the in, but still, I guess if it's a beautiful garden, you'd consider it feminine, wouldn't you? So.
Right? Right.
Mm,
And well, it also just it makes perfect sense to me because when we study what were the Cretans doing, the earliest
mhm,
Cretans on Mount Ida, right?
mhm,
The Minoans. They're
mhm,
worshiping the great goddess Pandora, who is
mhm,
Demeter, the earth mother. They're worshiping her on the mountain, which is
mhm,
her garden. And they're doing the fertility rites to do what? To make the
mhm,
earth come. The mountain is this giant phallus, and it's all about bringing that fertility into the earth. Like, to me,
mhm.
it just makes perfect sense, right? And
Yeah.
all of their rites are based around wine, are based around these various sacred plants.
Mhm,
Like, of course, it just
mm,
like when Jason found that word, I'm like, man, okay.
mm. Yeah. And even though they're based around wine, Neil, we're not encouraging you to go online and drink wine and abuse people. That's not what we're saying here.
No, please don't. Please don't.
Yeah, yeah,
Ugh.
please don't. Get some help, mate. Get some help. Stop abusing women.
Well, it's just like it's like it made me think of the argument that you had with him a few months ago because you were just trying to talk about the Hermetic stuff and connect things
Mm.
to Egypt. And his first result was to freak out and to say no. But
I'm an
the
idiot.
difference,
I'm an
the,
idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. I was like,
but the difference
okay, a
between
bit harsh.
you and Maddie is that you were arguing for the mainstream point that he was unaware of. And so,
Yeah,
because it was the mainstream point, he had to concede. He
yeah,
had to concede, rather, so
yeah,
he actually conceded to you, which
yeah.
I will have to give him the tiniest bit of credit for that. But that was just embarrassing,
It
you
was for
know?
him. And this is the thing, he's embarrassing himself. He's
Yeah.
embarrassing himself. And I did notice that the other academic that he had, I can't recall who it was, when he's talking to
Josh,
Madalena, yeah,
Iowa Set School.
yeah, he was like saying, well, actually, and they're right. And he was just getting talked over the top of. So he just disappeared off the screen. He just went. I saw that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
he's
then they had a
embarrassing
couple
himself.
people from witch doctors community. One person, if the congregation should please tell me who the other person was on with Tiger Shark, because Neil doesn't even mention them in the description of his video, nor did he say that gentleman's name even once. So, like,
Mhm.
just the level of disrespect to the people that he
Yeah.
brought onto his show,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. No, I
Weird.
was trying to find out that myself because that guy was very good, and
Yeah,
trying to correct him and trying to you know, anyway, but he does have an issue with women. Like he will take it from the guys that correct him. And I've made sure when I showed him the sources about Hermetics that one was a female academic who is an expert in the Greek Magical Papyrus, and the other one was a male, right? That he had to respect because he's had him on his show. And yeah, so that's that. Then he had to apologize, but don't
right.
forgive people unless they apologize. Even if they are on substances, and Neil's on a substance, he's on an alcoholic binge, they need to make it right. They need to make it right. Yeah, they need to go and put in the effort and do the right thing and stop abusing people, and get the help they need. And
Right.
I just, I mean, he can't see that the numbers on his channel are taking a nosedive. People aren't, he used to put a video up and he'd get, in the first hour, he'd get 23,000 people to watch a video. Now he has to resort to abuse and, um, you know, conflict tactics to try and get 1,000 or a couple of thousand. He's going to lose his income. He's going to. I can see why this would be pushing his alcoholism further. So go get some help, mate. Right? And look, I know he had, and it's all because he's had a disagreement with Dr. Ammon about political stuff. It's based on his political points of view. Why can't people just
Personal stuff
agree to
too.
why can't people just agree to have a different opinion on politics? Okay, we don't agree. I'm not discussing that. That's all you have to say. Everybody's got their own views. And if it comes to something on religion, if you disagree with it, you can have a fight or you can just go, I have a different opinion. Let's talk about something else. How hard is that? You know,
You know,
don't, yeah,
one of the things I admire about Neil and also is just so intense is that he is in that absolute pursuit of truth, but he's
mm,
blinded by this idea of truth. And he thinks that there is a definable, recognizable, correct point that you can highlight and say, I win. And that's
yeah.
that's that's not how any of this works
No,
in
I see it.
academia,
I see
you
him.
know?
Yeah, I see him as a like. I know he did a stint in prison, and I do see him as a bit of a drunken street fighter. A drunk. Everybody's got a different personality when they're drunk.
Mm.
If I have some tequilas, I just get horny. I just want to have sex. That's not a bad thing. But you get your lovey drunks, oh mate, I love you, so good. Oh, why can't he be like that? And then you get people that drink alcohol and want to fight. He's a
Mm.
street fighter, and that's he wants to win. He wants to be right, and that's not the pursuit of truth. The pursuit
No,
of truth is listening and going, okay, we can disagree agreeably. Yeah, yeah.
it's just gotten
So
ridiculous, you
it
know?
has, and it is because the alcohol, and it's not worth. You're never going to win a fight with an alcoholic. You're just not, and there's no point discussing it. It's almost like if you rang me tomorrow and said, Shay, you want to come on the show? I go, mate, have you gone and got help for your alcohol? Because I'm not coming on there to get abused. And
Right.
you won't guarantee me you're not going to drink while I'm there. You won't.
No, and all he'll do is he'll try to slam as many sources down your throat as possible and shout, I won.
Mm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
And it's fueled by the alcohol, which is
Yeah.
sad. Yeah, the bad purple.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get too much into drama here. I hope,
Mm,
the truth of someone like Neil is that he does have a phenomenal channel and he has done some
mm,
phenomenal work. And I hope that he comes out of this ridiculous cloud of insanity and goes
mm.
back to doing really good interviews again and just
Yeah.
being open to different perspectives. Share
Yep.
the academic. Here's the thing. It's like, I'm not an academic. I'm not an expert, but neither is Neil. Listen to the experts, challenge them at times, accept them at other times, but be that platform for the pursuit of knowledge and
Yeah.
recognize you're not going to find the true answer, not on bloody YouTube. Like, calm
No.
down. We're
Yeah.
here to
Yeah.
have fun and explore, to come to some kind of
Discuss.
greater understanding. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean truth. Truth is not that easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And in Indigenous culture in Australia, because they had groups that you travelled around with, and some of these groups were quite large, but imagine walking through the bush for thousands of miles in Australia. Eventually, with that same group, doesn't matter how big it is, you're going to run out of conversation, you know? And so when they met another group, it was like, what ideas have you heard? What ideas have you come up with? And the Indigenous religions, the Indigenous languages in Australia have very big philosophical languages because they would love to discuss ideas when they got together. And if you had the same opinion as them, they didn't want to talk to you because I've got nothing to discuss. Let's find somebody with a different opinion. Yeah. And having somebody who has a different opinion makes a great discussion. I mean, you and I don't always agree, but
No,
I
we
love
fight
that.
all the time. And
But
I
I
still
like
love
it.
you. Yeah,
But I like the fact that you make me think. And it's like, oh, shitters, maybe. Oh, okay. All right. I'll have to go and do some more
exactly.
research on that. Yeah. I
No,
like
it's
that. I
good.
like being
It's
sat
good to
back on
have
my heels.
disagreements. It's good to have
Yeah.
disagreements, and
It's how we
it's
grow.
human. It's
Yeah.
human. No one is going to
Yeah.
share the same perspective of anyone.
Mm.
And if you
Mm.
do, then I question, right? Are you really thinking for yourself, or are you submitting to someone else? Like,
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
not knowing yourself. That's not being, like, I'm here to have beautiful conversations and to try to share and to learn. And I want to
Mhm.
be challenged.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want it to be a full on fight to the death, but like, come on, like,
Yeah.
there should be
Yeah.
disagreement is healthy. It's important.
Yeah, I have a little short about the magical battle that Crowley had with the
Right.
and it was like
With
we're going to
Yates,
throw
right?
magic at each other, and he pushes him down the stairs. That's it. That's the magical battle. End of story.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
Okay, I remember this. It's so funny. So Crowley shows up at Yates's house, and
yeah.
Yates is at the
Oh,
top of the stairs. Crowley is at the bottom of
I
the
think it's
stairs,
at the I think it's
and
at
they
that
begin with the
the
magicking, and then Crowley, eventually, Yates just gets annoyed and pushes him down the
pushes him
stairs
down
and
the
out the door.
stairs,
He's like,
and
"Why am
that's
I
it.
bothering?"
Yeah, that's the end of the magical battle. Yeah, but I think it was at the Golden Dawn Preface House. I think it was like their temple that he turned up at um with his McGregor Mathers who got into a conflict with him, and he's trying to back him
Mm.
up. He left his Abramelin working in Scotland, came down and we said, well, we'll fix them. No. Yeah. So the end of the magical battle was a push down the stairs.
It's just so funny because you know what it was really is this is Crowley's ego thing because Yates
Yeah.
was the most famous member of the Golden Dawn and the most successful outside the Golden Dawn, right? One
Mhm,
of the most celebrated poets of all time. And Crowley really wanted to be a serious poet. And he has some
mhm.
beautiful poems, but we got to be honest, he also has some serious drivel. And
Yeah.
he pales in comparison to a Yates. It's just
Yeah.
everyone pales in comparison to a Yates, though.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
take a back seat, Crowley. It's okay, but
Yeah.
he never could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild stuff. That's such a
Yeah.
funny.
I mean, I like to write songs, but there's songs that you look at and you go, wow, that person was born to write that song. I wish I'd written that. You got to be able to do
Exactly.
that. You got to be able to be humbled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some people are just like it's like looking at a perfect movie that describes this. It's not historically accurate, but it's one of the
Mm,
greatest movies of all time. Is
mm,
Amadeus, the
mm,
story about Mozart, and you see
mm,
Salieri, who's freaking. How can Mozart be so good and he doesn't
mm,
practice? He's not dedicated. He doesn't have that same magic that I do. Nobody got the muse, and you don't.
mm,
And
yeah.
sometimes that's just how it is. People got the muse, they're
Right.
inspired. And all you can do in the face of such inspiration is clap and enjoy the beauty, you know?
And yeah, there's a French film about that explores this jealousy with men
Mm.
and how, it's almost homoerotic the way that they
Oh,
do it.
absolutely.
But yeah, well, that this person becomes obsessed with the other person, right? And I think that when it comes out male to male, it's a very destructive thing, which is what I see happening with Ammon and Neil. There's this he wants to destroy Ammon because there's jealousy there. It's so obvious that there's a jealousy there. But when it comes out with a woman, it's abusive. The jealousy, like the jealous husband syndrome, is always where a woman gets beaten up. It's like,
Right.
um, and that's the negative side. Every human emotion has a positive. The positive side of jealousy is, I look at Annie Wilson writing Crazy on You for Heart, my love is the evening breeze touching my skin, the gentle sweet swaying of breeze in the wind, the whisper that calls after you in the night and kisses your ear in the morning light. Oh, I wish I'd written that. So that inspires me to go on and write something. That's the positive of jealousy. If she can
Yeah.
do it, oh, I'm humbled by that. Can I do something as good or anywhere near as good? That's the positive of jealousy, you know? So, yeah, we got to,
Yeah.
there's a negative to everything and a positive to everything. Don't use it for the destructive. See where you can use it for the creative. Like, even if
Right.
you're in pain, look at all these great masters when they're in pain, paint the Sistine Chapel or, sculpt the statue of David. And, the agony and the ecstasy of Michelangelo. He had a horrendous life and yet he did all these beautiful works of art. Turn that
Right.
pain into something positive. Yeah.
We see this all
Yeah.
the time, right? With artists. It's just this one of thing. It's just one of these things, where
Rechannel
like,
the emotion. Mm,
yeah, there's something
mhm,
just about like madness too, right? The greatest artists seem to be people who are willing to go to that nth degree. Like you brought up painters. I just saw a documentary a few weeks back on Caravaggio,
oh,
widely
yeah.
considered like the one of the greatest painters of all time, the master of chiaroscuro shading. The guy was a
Mm,
murderous, debaucherous, horrific human who died young and violent, who
mm,
was exiled from his country. He was a serial rapist, like not a
yeah.
good person in any sense of the word,
No, you can see the darkness that comes out in his paintings.
right?
And it's amazing
Right.
that the church has got so behind him. So,
I know, right? This is the thing with the church. It's so, it's so hypocritical and ridiculous,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
But
yeah.
we should dive into a bit of this hermeticism here. So we're working on, well, Dion and I have been working on off and on this long form video series that we're going to be doing on Balk, on the empire of the Greco-Bactrian Empire, but specifically focusing on the city of Balk. And
Mm.
you decided to dive in and to join in with this presentation. Oops, sorry, wrong button. You decided to dive in with this presentation, and you did your own little bit here talking
Well,
about the Altai.
that's because I've like, I love languages.
Mhm.
I'm nowhere near as good at speaking Greek as the people here because I haven't had the time and I've actually gone backwards. But I can still research and but what I've done is I've always been interested in the Tibetan culture for quite a long time. I
Mm.
had a Tibetan teacher. So I used to research. And then I had a dear friend, and let me know in the comments if you've ever met Barrington Vincent Sherman. He's quite a remarkable man. And he died in his 50s, about 10 years ago now. And Barrington was very much into Greek. He was very much into Hermetics. And we would sit down and have these discussions and realize that there is a huge overlap between these two cultures. And we're going, of course, because there was a trade in ideas, because Alexander the Great went through and came back. So I've done this presentation a lot about the Hermetic culture between the two. So that's why you'll see some Tibetan references there. But the Tibetan, for me, was the Altai-Himalayan mountain range. It goes all the way through into Siberia and all the way down the Caucasus. So, and there is a culture that's spread along there, right? And even people like, you're going to do a Jadif series soon. And Jadif, he speaks about
Yeah, Gurdjieff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you like Gurdjieff, okay. But
yeah.
he speaks about these voices Magi that he heard in the Altai-Himalayas, right? And
Hmm.
this is what we look at. But the correspondences work. The correspondences, whether it's Tibetan or Greek culture, work.
And I
So
want
we've
to I
got
want to
the
talk for a moment about the Hermetic stuff because a lot of people, they view Hermeticism because of more modern history
mm,
as sort of creation, a creation of like the second century AD, right? It is out of that Alexandrian magical tradition, and they want to dismiss Hermes as sort of a nom de plume of various philosophers of that time. But
mhm,
talking and working with Ammon, he's shown me that Hermeticism actually comes from a far earlier root, and that the
mm,
adoption of that Hermetic philosophical tradition is born in the second century, but
mm,
its earlier roots go all the way back to the cult of Ammon, Par Ammon, who is the same as Hermes. And this takes us
mhm,
all the way back to the ancient Libya, to Siwa, where Alexander goes to get dubbed Jupiter
mhm,
Ammon. So this
mhm,
is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with this ancient Greek Egyptian hybrid, but it's
mm.
predates Alexander.
Yeah.
Alexander is getting his legitimacy through this Hermetic root. And it
Mhm,
takes on that Hermetic Greek color through Alexander's promotion of it. But it's
mhm,
something that is far older.
mhm. Absolutely, yeah. So when you discuss Hermeticism, essentially, like the modern definition is, it's a blend of Greek and Egyptian magical culture.
Right.
But it is, and I think by this discussion that I used to present to people, I show that it's far more far-reaching as well, not only in history but through cultures. We have a lot of cultures that try to do systems of correspondences. And I'm going to shock everybody out there because I'm going to say I don't like the Kabbalah as a system of correspondences. A Kabbalah to me is like a bastardization of the Pythagorean base 10 set of correspondences. It's been taken into Islamic culture from Pythagoras, and from Islamic culture, it's come back into Judeo culture, and then now into popular culture. I just don't like it. It's too messy. Whereas the
we can
seven,
go to the Pythagorean roots. They're still here. We don't need
yeah,
necessarily to use the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah
that's
is
correct.
clearly based, right? The Merkaba tradition, those Kabbalistic correspondences, they're taken from the Neoplatonic and from the Hermetic. It's clear. Anyone
Absolutely,
who wants
yeah.
to dive into this, our dear mutual friend Wretch actually has
Hmm.
written 2 books, pagan and Gnostic antecedents to the Kabbalah and Merkaba traditions, and they're
Hmm.
great. You can find them for free on academia.edu. Dunk
Hmm.
Wretch is the name of the academic.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, good on you, Rich. I like him, and he often comments when we're online. So if you're there, you're welcome to join in and make some comments, Rich. But yeah, and there's and again, the disservice that came to Hermetics was by William Walter Atkinson, who was one of the Theosophists, and it's widely theorized that he wrote the Kabbalion, right?
Mm,
And popularized that. And his explanation of the Kabbalion, I can sort of understand why he does it, because if you go into the Corpus Hermetica, it's not really in order. And a lot of it is a discussion between the student and Hermes. And a lot of the teachers would take on the name Hermes in the same way as we have Pope John Paul. We don't believe that he is the
exactly.
Apostle Paul, right? But but
It's a sign
so
that you've reached the
mm,
height of the magical tradition, and now you're
yeah,
regarded as a magus, you know?
yeah. So there's these discussions between the teacher and the student, and quite often you can't quite tell until you reread it a few times where the teacher's talking and where the students, especially the Pymander and things like that. So what he's done with the Kabbalion is he's just gone, all right, everything is mine. Here's the 7 principles of Hermetics. And to do magic, you study the correspondences until you get the 7 principles. But with the Kabbalion, you don't get the correspondences first, right?
Hmm.
And you really do need to understand the correspondences first,
Right. So
which
talk to
is
us a bit. What are you getting at with these correspondences?
all
Why do
right.
they
So
need to
this
come first?
the 7 Hermetic planets, right, are the
Mm.
7 planets of the ancients. So, like Greece worked with 7 planets. They didn't have Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto in those days, and
No,
Pluto's
they
not a
couldn't see
planet
them.
anymore. No.
And they included often the sun and the moon to make 9.
Well, no, the sun and the moon was included. So in the
Mm.
Hermetic workings, you have
Mhm.
the sun. We don't really count Earth, so it's the sun, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and the sun, moon, Jupiter, uh, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Miss Mars, Jupiter, Saturn.
Right, right, right. Thanks.
Oh,
Perfect.
it's early in the morning here. Sorry, sorry, sorry.
No, no, it's
Yeah.
all
So
good. We're both
yeah,
doing
so
it.
it's the without the Earth and the sun and the moon. So they were
Mm,
planetes. Planetes means wanderer, and the sun and the moon certainly wander. So we don't
absolutely.
consider them to be Hermetic planets today, but they are certainly included. Um, these have influence over our life, and we discussed the influence the moon has, and the moon obviously has correspondences, right? So um, the sun has correspondences as well. It refers to, well, we've got a chart here in front of us, and it shows you some of the correspondences with the colors, with the planets, with the musical notes, with all those sorts of things. But we have our Hermetic colors, musical notes, number correspondences, which are actually taken largely from the Pythagorean number correspondences, and the days of the week, obviously. So a lot of people do the Hermetic days of the week based on, so rather than doing a working when you have the sun prominent in the sky, which for me would be a solstice or an equinox, they will do it on the Sunday, right? Right. And then we have workings out of the Greek Magical Papyrus that we do for Helios Apollo, right? Which, and obviously, if we're going to start, we usually start with the sun because everything starts with the sun. In magical workings, you start in the east, but you finish with Saturn because Saturn is the conclusion. So that's Saturday. So that's why we've got up here on the correspondences, you start with Sunday and finish on Saturday. And if you haven't got a good astronomical, not astrological, astronomical almanac, then what you will do is you will work with the days of the week. In fact, we used to joke that we were going to bring out a set of Hermetic underwear with the different color correspondences for the different days of the week, just to sort of make people aware.
Oh gosh.
uh, yeah, we never bothered,
That's funny.
but
That's
but
funny.
it was a joke. Yeah, so we have the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn. They're the corresponding metals. So what we've got is their Egyptian gods there. But we know, having done so much Greek, what the Greek correspondences are.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're the same
So
as the
this
planets, right? So,
absolutely, absolutely. And I wanted to, this was on a talk from Egyptian magic that I was doing on specifically Egyptian magic. So I wanted people to understand that the gods do correspond in Egyptian. They a lot of the time they go, oh, but who's Jupiter? Jupiter's actually Isis. She's the great god. A lot of people don't. She is the one that is the power behind the throne. She's not a Juno. She gives the
she
right
is.
to be the king. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh, she's Jupiter and Juno together, in that
exactly.
sense. Yeah. Yeah, but Osiris is Saturn because he's the god of the underworld, the dead god that rises, and yeah, all that sort of stuff. And the rest of the correspondences are pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and we
So
know in
when
the
you,
Greek, Saturn is Dionysus. These are equatable
mhm,
energies.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, Dionysus Osiris. Yeah, and there's a lot of like I used to send a my Christmas and Easter card every year was the crucified Dionysus Osiris, right? And everybody think I was sending him a picture of Jesus. You know, oh look, she's found this ancient reference to Jesus. No, it's the
It's the
crucifixion of
dying and rising
Dionysus.
vine, guys. You
Yeah,
drink his
yeah.
blood and you eat his flesh.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know where this comes from? And I'd open it up, and then inside it'd be, have a cool Yule and a lovely Letha. But this is where that little thing at the bottom, what the image was about. Yeah. And
Do you
everybody
remember
loved that.
Do you remember the Olympics? I think it was I think it was the Olympics, but in France, they had some kind of
Mhm.
big sporting event, and then
Mm.
these artists recreated the feast of Dionysus, and all
Yeah.
of these Catholics went nuts. All these Christians went nuts because they thought they were mocking Jesus. And
No,
it's
no.
like, you guys are just so ignorant, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I
And
thought it was
people
so
wanted to
good.
insist to me that it was offensive. And I'm like, no, this is just going back to the Greek roots. This is the Olympic Games. Like, what are you
Yes. Do
talking
you
about?
do you know where the Olympics come from? Is what
Right.
I you know,
You know?
what country started it and when, and why, yeah. So if you are like, for instance, so we're going to do a dark moon working, right? So our correspondence is there, silver, myrrh. So we burn our myrrh incense. We've got a flower. We've got color. So the deep indigo and silver, right? Third eye chakra. All right. So, and then we've got our Hermetic correspondences from the Kabbalion down the side.
Well,
But
like,
what we,
you'll see this for so clear, like in the PGM. Like, for example, I immediately think of the Kronos little mill ritual. And
Mhm,
it tells you to dress like a priestess of Isis, but all in black, to go
mhm,
into a field of tall grass, to burn
mhm,
storax, right? And
mhm,
to write your correspondences on lead. What do we see
mhm,
here with Saturn? Do the
mhm,
lead, do the styrax, and
mhm,
often you have them here orange, but often it's black too. So really
mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But white and black are neutral colors, so
Mm-hmm.
you can use them for any. And that's I
Yeah.
have a set of ritual robes that are black and that white, not because one's good or one's evil, just because it's
No.
neutral. And then you can dress it up with whatever color as well. But if we're using the spectrum of light, right, well, we're not using the presence of all of the light or the absence of all of the light, which is white or black. So we're using the spectrum. So it does come in as an orange. And orange was a pretty important color in ancient Egypt, right, with regard
Right.
to the kings.
And I even think, like, I remember reading, I'm reading about all of these different Etruscan things, and they actually had this a Saturn temple in southern
Mhm,
Italy where the
mhm,
idol was made of lead, and all the
mhm,
priests were in
mhm,
black, and they would
mhm,
burn huge amounts of storax to the
mhm,
point where people would complain about the smell that
mhm.
survived to us. The complaints
Yeah,
about how awful the place smelled.
yeah. So
Just interesting.
yeah. So what we're going to do, let me grab this for you. I should have grabbed it earlier.
Hmm.
It's whoop, dropping bits. Okay. So we have a little image of Hecate, not an expensive one, just a little one I bought on the internet quite reasonably.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So with her torch, there was another torch over there, but I've got to fix it.
Ooh, the
It
light
actually
bringer.
arrived. Yeah. So we have a triple road at the end of my street. So we will wait till the moon is above the triple road. All right. And
Hmm.
then whether or not we do the ritual here or a game enough to go down and do it, it's quite isolated at night, but it's also a small community that gossips.
Right. You don't want to
So
get, you know, We want to summon Hecate Phosphoros, but do we want to be known as the weirdo at the crossroad in the middle of the night?
Yeah, what's she doing? What's she doing up there? All right, so whether or not we do it in the backyard and then go down, but we're going to put Hecate at the crossroad and dedicate that crossroad to Hecate, because it's like when the mists come in and the moon is, it is such a Hecate spot. And because she's, I will take my dog with me because she's, so you put all the correspondences there. So and we will dedicate this in the ritual. We'll anoint it with the myrrh and we'll breathe life into it. But once we're there, what we will do is open the portal. Now, you'll notice on that last chart, we've got La, right? So that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is Egyptian. A lot of people don't realize that comes from Egyptian music. And but what we have is the Greek letters, the Greek vowels that correspond to those as well. And sound is the way that you open the portal, right? So it penetrates between the realms. We have the seen realm and the unseen realm. And the way that you open it, whether you consider it to be dimensional or whatever, is with sound, is the vibration, right? Everything comes back to the vibration, right? When you do this. Now, which vowel corresponds neatly to the Egyptians in Greek? We don't know exactly. So what we did find that is in the Tibetan, what they use is harmonic singing if they're going to open. And I think everybody's heard Tibetan throat singing. We used to have, I used to do all the Mind, Body, Spirit festivals here in Australia, and they used to open with one of the Tibetan monks chanting, doing throat singing. And we used to laugh because we used to go, oh, he's constipated again.
Yeah, right.
Quick, get him some laxatives.
Getting
He
into
needs
that
to go.
drone. But the drone is such an important part of just about all ancient musics. There's something seriously magical about the drone that carries you, It gets you into those ecstatic states. Just like the drum, the steady heartbeat of the drum. These are two foundational features of most ecstatic forms of musical trance,
Exactly. And drumming is really, really important. It sets up a regular vibration. But all right, so what I want to do with everybody, if they are still with us, is I want to do a very, very quick harmonic overtone singing. And what you'll notice is while we do it, we go through all of the Greek vowels, all of them in the one, otherwise you can't produce the harmonic sound, right? And this is what we found was really, and it works. It really works. If you can do this, it opens up a portal to the other world. You feel spirit come through. And it works on an auditory level as well, because not only do you produce the main note, you hear the rainbow of the other notes come over the top at the harmonic nodal points. And
Oh,
it's,
wow.
yeah, the human voice, is the only way that we can produce this without making an instrument to do it. Like if you've got a guitar, you can produce your harmonic, you've got your harmonic node points, which they first found on the Pythagorean monochord with one string. But now you can do it on a guitar, you can produce
Or
it
kithara,
electronically.
right?
Yeah.
Ammon always
But
talks about this, the seven strings that correspond to the seven planets. Like they get
mm,
way into it with the guitar
yeah,
music,
yeah, absolutely. And it does. There's 7 notes, but when you're doing harmonic singing, you get them all at once. You get all
Right.
the vowels and you get all the notes. It's once you hear it, and anybody can do it. If you've got the ability to have a vocal cord, right, you can do. You don't have to be a beautiful singer. So we were all taught this at school, where you sit down, be seen, not be heard. What are you saying? Shut up, don't give up your day job. Everything to keep us quiet, right? And that's the opposite of what we should be doing. We are an expressive being. We need to express. So, if we are sad, we need to wail. If we're hurt, we need to cry. If we're happy, we need to sing. And if you're doing ritual, you need to be able to open the doorways. So this is why there's so many references to the priestesses singing, right, and to the unearthly sound of their singing. There was a quality, and even Jadif or Gurdjieff, as you say.
Gurdjieff, yeah.
Yeah, talks about it. And at the end of the movie, Meeting with Remarkable Gentlemen, the little boy wins the goat by making the rocks sing, right,
Right.
using this technique. So if there's sort of 3 steps if you've never done it before. The first one is allow yourself to make a sound. Everybody has a perfect note, no matter what they're feeling. It's perfect for you. So all you need to do is breathe, because that does help. If you stop breathing, you're not going to make any sound. So make sure you take a nice deep breath and just make a perfect sound. All right? Just get your voice open first. So something that's perfect for you. So we'd be doing something like, ooh, something that's just resonant and you can feel. It doesn't have to be in tune. There's nobody around that can hear you. Sing like nobody's listening. Just go for it. Now, once you make your perfect sound, it comes down. We have an amazing, not only do we resonate with our chest, but this mask that we have here is unlike any other creature on the planet with regard to making sounds. We've got so many chambers in our face that will resonate. And even our bones, even though they're strong, this is the strongest bone. Most of our bones have resonant chambers within them, within our face as well, which is why a woman never wants to get punched in the face, because it's very delicate bones. Right. Yeah. Don't get involved in a conflict as a woman unless you've learned to duck really quickly. Sorry, random thought. All right. So what we're going to do is change the shape of our mouth around the vowels, and the vowels are the Greek vowels. All right. So we're going to start with our but it's an R. It's like when he talks about the digamma being the H and the W, it's also an R sound sometimes. So we're going to start with that digamma, and then we're going to take it down and we'll bring it back up. So I was doing this before we came online today. So hopefully I'll be able to do it for you. You should be able to hear it. Please tell me if you hear like the rainbow tones come over the top. Okay. So, and anybody that's listening, just give us a thumbs up if you can hear them.
Yeah,
So
you
could
can
you
really
hear?
hear the overtone. It really reminds
Yeah.
me of the Tibetan music, and also of like a lot of the mountain music, like in Switzerland and whatnot. It's
Mm.
really interesting.
Yeah. So if you do that in ritual where it says to do the voices Magi, right, it opens up the portal. You can feel it. You do the ceremony, right? You have the point, and then you have, well, with our group, we have 4 or more. Like we've had up to 40 people facing inwards into the circle, each doing their own perfect note with the harmonics. It just, you feel reality start to warp in the middle. It just gets this going around the circle, and you feel the energy come through. We
Oh,
always
that's
leave,
powerful.
yeah, we always leave a space after we do that where people can experience it, the energy before we do anything. And you always see them afterwards. They start to sway. And as the watcher for the ritual, I'm always there in case somebody sways too much and is about to fall, but they never do. And you see them get a really big sway, and spirit's there because this, and you go, what was happening while you were swaying? And they go, swaying? I wasn't swaying.
Yeah, you're feeling that
Yeah,
harmony, you're getting into the vibes.
yeah, yeah, that,
But
yeah.
like I can really hear you, like, and when you chant that, it immediately makes me think of some of the Voces Magicae, like Yao, like
Mm,
EAO. You can clearly see how that could resonate and vibrate and hit into
yeah,
those tones. Or like
yeah.
the epithet of the great mother, the goddess Aiea, for her sacred
Mm,
kingdom, right? any of these pure vowel words will
Mhm,
work, or awa, the cry of the maenad, you know, you could
mhm,
easily take any of these to that
mm.
height. That's so
Yeah,
interesting.
sing it. Yeah, sing it, especially if it's a very vowel heavy name. Yeah, absolutely. So
And this is
it's
what these women would be doing, right? Like they tell us that Iea, that's the
mm,
cry of the lamentations of Demeter. That's
mm,
why it's called, that's where the name comes from, because that's what they're crying, the people
yeah,
out who are
yeah.
trying to bring the Corey back, you know?
And it works because it opens up the portal and Hecate comes through like, what are you crying about? Let me do let me do a dance. I'm going to show you my vulva and we'll make you happy for a while. So you bring the life back to the earth. You know? And she just sticks her head through the portal like, what? 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 What's going on? You know? And she's funny. I like Hecate. Everybody thinks she's really scary, but she's got a good sense of humor, you
Mhm.
know. But you don't want to muck around with her either. You know? If you've
No.
done something wrong, she brings justice. She really does. Yeah.
Well, she has that force of decay, right? Well, this is just the
Mm,
thing in general, you know. Unless you're
mm,
just, don't be
mm.
dabbling in the magic. I'm sorry, you know.
You have to be in a very good with real magic, you have to be in a very good headspace. I look, I know that there are rituals that you can do where you take mind altering substances, but when you're doing most magic, be clear. You need to be in control. I've never had
Right.
anything go wrong except for the duck of death that came through when I was doing the
Right.
satin
Your
working.
Chronos ritual.
But you want to be able to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
And people don't call stuff up if they can't deal with it, right?
Yeah. You know,
And
with a lot of
yeah,
my friends who are more accomplished magicians like yourself, who engage in the
mm,
entheogenic practice, the
yeah,
entheogenic practice comes at the end or it happens before. And then the idea is you want to try and hit your peak or near your peak after your ritual work is done. So
yeah.
people are, you know, they fumigate after, right? Or they're taking something like a mushroom so that the ritual acts as sort of a meditation focus that then leads into these alternate states of awareness after the ritual is complete. But that like that height of the entheogenic experience is not when you're doing the ritual,
No,
right?
when you're doing your invocation, no,
No.
yeah, because you want to be just in case something comes through that you weren't planning, you want to be able to deal with it.
Right. And
So,
this is especially true like if you when people want to, you know, so many people, they want to have that intimate experience, they want to
mm,
connect with the spirits, so then they try to do something really dangerous like a deliriant, like datura.
mm,
And the
mhm,
truth, you read the text. What did the text tell you? If you don't know how to banish the demons, if you don't know how to control your mind, you're going to be driven mad by cacodemons. They're going to
mhm,
haunt you for the rest of your, you'll gain the second sight. But if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not prepared for this, you've just ruined your life. Right?
mhm,
And there's numerous examples of this all
yeah,
over the universe.
yeah. And look, one of the things I always tell people is the easiest way to banish your demons, right? First of all, if there's something comes to you, tell it to go. And
Mm,
that's usually sufficient. Tell it to go. If it doesn't want to go, you banish your demons with laughter. They don't like
yeah.
to be laughed at, which also says if you are doing a ritual, be in a happy place. Don't go into a ritual when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're things like that. That's the wrong time to enter ritual, right? Just look at the Greek. How many people have called things up for justice when they're angry and they end up getting bitten themselves, right?
That's
So
such a good point. Are you
yeah,
truly just? You better be certain.
yeah, and that's the great
Maybe the
thing
goddess
about
has a different idea of what justice is than you think.
yeah, and that's the great thing about the Greek myth is it gives us the moral framework to do ritual. You know, go
Right.
and see the Sibyl. Yes, if you go to war, you will destroy a great nation. Yeah, you know, careful what you wish for because he did. He destroyed his own nation.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the perfect examples of this is the play Antigone by Sophocles, because we
Mm,
see Creon has done the rites and he is embodied with the spirit of celestial decay. And he claims authority and he can pass law and judgment. He's the king. But then Antigone comes with chthonic decay, natural law, themis. And this, it doesn't matter if you've done the rites and created your law and you're the king. That natural law supersedes everything. And if you crash up against her throne, she's going to tear you down every
Mhm.
time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you look at, there's some great examples in Greek culture where ritual is successful, you know, where if you have the gods on you, and it's about making friends with the gods. And this
Mm,
is what I think is the most important thing with all of these Hermetic rituals, is that we treat it like a 12-month initiation. Each person is getting introduced to a different aspect of that deity. Like there is, with the sun we do 2, with the moon we do 3, but the planet, like when we do Mercury, they're starting to meet magic and find out that he's a trickster. Right, one of the first, we talk about the burning purple because I get it so clearly because we anoint everybody with the oil.
right.
But the one for Hermes is cassia, cinnamon. Right. So you put that there, and I was in the ritual, and I was like, oh, well, what about the second side? What about the, and I started to sweat, and it went down into my eyes, and I'm in ritual with, I think it was about 50 people at that time, and I'm supposed to be conducting it, and all my eyes were just
Oh no.
burning. And he's like, but you asked for it. It's like, this is what you asked for. I'm like, not really. But he had a good sense of humor. Honestly,
Right.
he was, yeah. And you get to meet each of them. And Aphrodite, is an agony aunt. She loves to hear about anything you want to tell her about your love life. If you're like making a cup of tea and sitting down and talking to her, she wants to know. She wants to know about it. She will help you. She's just like having a really good auntie. I don't like if you had a really good auntie who's super sexy, that's her. But she wants to talk about it. Um,
Oh yeah, this is
she,
the thing, right? Like, man, it's like I
mm,
remember for a long time I was really
mhm,
trying to connect to Dionysus, and I finally
mm,
managed to do it, and I connected to Dionysus. But I did so while engaged. I did two things. So I did the necromantic rites to open up a portal through Euripides' Bacchae.
mhm,
If anyone is interested in how to do this, you can message me on the Discord. It's a process, but it's about ascending the throne and reading the text, and then
mm,
going into those meditative states. But
mm,
Dionysus showed up for me, and I was serious. I'm trying to ask him questions, you know, what is the secret? How do I break through? And he looks at me and he starts pissing in his mouth and he tells me it's ambrosia and just starts laughing at me. And then
yeah.
when I press him, I'm like, what's the secret? He goes, open sesame, and goes poof, and a bunch of like confetti flies everywhere. But later on, that secret of what open sesame meant was revealed to me. And there's a
Mm,
lot of depth to this. And even
mm,
with the drinking of the pee, that there's a whole thing there we don't need to get into. But
mm,
it comes out in this humorous, ridiculous way, right?
mm,
With Dionysus and all of these
mm,
characters, they have such
mm.
wild, if you can go
Personalities.
into those, if you can connect to that true image, be careful.
Yeah.
It gets
And you
wild.
learn, yeah, and you can make friends with them. That's the whole
Oh,
point of
yeah.
being there. If you make friends with the gods, why did Athena help Odysseus? Because he was like a lot of people say that was, she was a virgin and it was she admired him. He was her friend. She describes him as her friend, right?
Mm.
And that's why she made sure that Hermes gave her the molly. It gave Odysseus the molly. You're going to go see Circe. Okay, so wait till she does this thing, and then take the molly, and then watch her face. It's
Odysseus is such a
like,
complicated character,
yeah.
right? And this is
Yeah.
something like I'm really interested to see how they're going to tackle him in the
Mm,
upcoming movie by Christopher Nolan. Because, so much of he is a chosen of Athena and he is protected on one hand, but then he's also cursed on the other, right? He's the sacker of cities. He destroyed Troy and then he
yeah.
commits the piracy. He rapes those women and abducts the
Yeah.
children. He
Yeah.
steals the cows of Helios for all of
Yeah,
this, his
he's
men, every single one of his men die, right?
yeah,
He does make it in the end, but only because of Athene, you know.
yeah. I'll tell you my theory of it. My theory
Mm,
is that he is a metaphor for Athens,
mm,
right, itself, right? Because there's the conflict between Athena and Poseidon, because
right,
Poseidon curses him, Athena blesses him, and in the end, Athens is to be destroyed, but it will find its happiness with its rural life and its wife eventually,
right.
and
No longer an
yeah,
empire, now just a backwater, but it still gets to be. It still gets to
yeah,
flourish in beauty. Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
interesting.
yeah, I see him as a metaphor for the city, and the conflict between the two deities. Yeah, try not to get a deity offside. Not good. Yeah, so yeah, really try not to upset them. Don't go out and like he had to kill
This is
Poseidon's
something that needs to
child.
be stressed though, because this is something I find that a lot of people get into modern magic, or
Hmm.
get into Christian magic. And we've talked about this in terms of the Christian legaton, the Goetia, and they are binding these spirits in the name of Yao, and they're trying to force them to do their bidding, force them to go out, and that's never going to work. Or if it does work, you're going to pay the price eventually,
Yep. Yep.
you know?
Yeah. You imagine, like, it, you can have. Sometimes I use the metaphor of a big dog, and I don't do it disrespectfully. But you can have a big, powerful dog, and that becomes your friend. And the dog would die for you, would do anything for you. But you beat that dog, you hit it, it might do what you say, but it'll wait till your back is turned and you're going to get bitten. Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same with these spirits that they're trying to force. Much nicer to go, hey, do you want to work with me? And if they go, no, you go, okay, somebody else will. It's
You
like
know, I
relationships.
I think this is
Any
ultimately
relationship.
too, like, me, I take everything back to the tarot, and I look
Hmm.
at, when we go to the earliest version of the tarot, right, in the Marseille, strength is
Hmm.
Heracles, and he's
Hmm.
ripping apart the lion. But
Hmm.
then by the time you get to the more modern versions of the tarot, it's the Virgo, and she is removing the thorn from the lion's paw.
And
Now all of a
holding its
sudden it's
jaws gently
domestication,
together.
right?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's domestication. You're gonna win. What do you think is gonna work better? Trying to dominate that lion through strength, or
Yeah.
trying to convince that lion through love, right?
Yeah. 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 What was
Both
the
are a
name of the
strength of a kind, but
what
different.
was the what was the name of the woman that became Heracles' adopted mum and lover? And he used to lay at her feet on the lion's skin and
Oh my
um
gosh. I'm trying to remember
um
now.
yeah, but he was
Uh,
quite content to be dominated by her. It was a real dominant relationship, and he was content. It was one of the few times he actually knew contentment in his life. And I
right.
often relate the strength card to that. She was stronger than Heracles,
That's the
and
thing.
but she didn't need to use force. Yeah.
And there's this clear thing going on in the ancient rites with a
Mhm,
lot of this masculine stuff. Honestly think that this has to do with going back into the primordial past, when we're dealing with um, animal husbandry, where we're trying to domesticate the brutal men, and to make them get along and to be a part of society, right?
mhm,
To try it, because this is actually something like, I'm a big fan of Jane Goodall, and Jane Goodall was actually an occultist and a mystic. She wrote a whole entire book about Antonin Artaud and his magical works. But
mhm,
she talks about this in terms of chimpanzees, where the women, you know, the female chimpanzees domesticated them, and this is how we get the bonobo. But
mhm,
she even makes the claim that she thinks this is what happens with early hominids, early humanoids, is that the reason why humanity becomes so successful and we are able to outpace the Neanderthals is because we have more larger group societies. And it's because the men are less violent and they're more in community with the women. We can
mhm,
form larger cooperative bands, whereas the Neanderthals, they would sit around tribes of 100. We've never even met the maximum for people. People
mhm,
get together in the millions because
mhm.
we see the humanity in each other and respect. But this was a process of evolution. We
mm,
had to get rid of the violent, abusive men,
mm,
and that is encoded in the myths with these
mm,
monstrous female
mm,
rulers, but now it's
mm,
been satirized because we flipped out of that ancient past and we're into
mm,
this more patriarchal present where
mm.
that's this nightmare of the past that's used to justify the abuse of today. And it's just, you don't even understand what was going on, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, there were, and on a literal level as well, where these remnants, these was it taming nature? Was it literally taming nature? I mean, because you can see that in the Babylonian myth. They've got to
Right.
kill Tiamat to tame the nature,
Yeah, or
and yeah,
Typhon is the same
mm,
thing, right? He's this consummation of all of this radical nature, but also hubris embodied, right? It's
yeah,
both.
yeah,
And I see the
yes,
same thing in Tiamat.
yeah. So yeah, but it's good once you've gone through your 12, like through the year, and
Mm,
you've done your whole workings, all your 13 workings. You have an initiation, and an initiation really just means an introduction. So you've
mhm.
got an introduction to all the deities, and you can work with them. You know what to expect. Hopefully they like you, they've met you, they like you, and they're willing to work with you. And you find out that there are ones that are more willing to work with you than others, right? And
Right.
that's why there's so much overlap between the gods and what they do as well. I mean, but it's yeah, once you've met them, it's life becomes magic because you can ask for things. It's not, and you don't want to spend your whole life just going, I'm going to do an invocation because I want, right? Sometimes just light the incense, burn the candle, and just go, hey, it's nice to feel your energy again. Nice to be
Oh,
with you, because that's what you
absolutely.
do. Because that's what you do with a friend.
Well, and
Yeah.
this is what we're taught too. Like when you look at like I'm so into Dionysus, right? And Bacchus, his whole thing is he adores Venus. That's all he does is adore Venus. He lives to adore Venus. You see the same thing in the Indian tradition with Krishna. All Krishna does is adore Radha and adore
Yeah.
humanity, love, right? That
Hmm.
purity of joy and seeing the beauty inherent in all things. Why does he laugh? Why is he such a goof? Because he's in that purity of joy and he's just basking in the love of Aphrodite. And
Hmm.
that's what you're called to do, to just
Hmm.
celebrate, to cry out in adoration. Or
Hmm.
sometimes it's the opposite, right? You cry out in lamentation. You see this with the Demeter myths, right?
Hmm.
It's those extreme emotions that move the universe, that call
Hmm.
the world to attention.
Yeah, yeah. The mania, the mania from the maenads. Yeah.
Right? And the
The
Manes, the spirits of the dead, right?
mhm, yeah.
But yeah,
So
wild,
yeah,
wild stuff.
yeah. So I really want like we're going to do the Hecate working this Saturday coming. This Saturday coming is going to be the Hecate. So if there are a couple of people on the group that have put their hand up and said they want to jump in and try and join us online. So we'll either do, I think at this stage, I think we're either going to do it here in the library or we'll do it up in the back garden. And then, yeah, we can always make sure, like, we've got a place where
Oh,
we will put. So if you do it, get something of Hecate and a place when we're going and putting our offering and dedicating a spot to her. You could do that as well. So
what
you're anchoring her
specific
in the element.
spell are you doing to Hecate? Because there's so many in the piece. She's like the most cited goddess, especially if you count the synchronicities between
Yeah.
Artemis and Selene and
I was
Persephone.
gonna I was gonna put that to my working partners, but
Mm.
I can send you a couple. I'm sure you'd enjoy them. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite PGM spell, and I cite it every single morning. I chant this every
Mm,
morning, is the prayer to Selene, right? And that one is for consecrating of the magnetic lodestone, but I find that
mm.
it works as fantastic as just a daily prayer to get you
It's
into
a
that
yeah.
space.
She's happy.
Yeah.
She's a party girl. Like, that's my
Right.
experience. Like, she comes through, it's like, what are we doing? Yeah. So if you go into a rave, invoke Celine before you go because she'd love it.
Oh, wow. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
yeah, but she's
anyone,
yeah.
what would you recommend people start with if they want to get into this kind of magical work? Like, what's a simple thing that they can begin with before diving into the more ritualistic stuff?
Um, get familiar with your correspondences. I often tell people like to make a kit. If you want to do a particular working, we have like a little fact sheet we send out and we get people to do research. Like one of the girls that came along, she did all this research and she was like, okay, right, sunflower. And she planted a seed in a pot in the ritual. So she has this sunflower with her. So she went and did her research and she decided that that was what was going to connect her with the Helios energy. So do your research. Nothing replaces some good research, good look online. The other part of the research that you should do is have a look at an online almanac. Now, I want to really stress this because people get confused all the time. I'm talking about astronomy, not astrology. So have a look at
Right.
an astrological almanac. Most people perform, unfortunately, what we call heliocentric astrology, which it comes from Greece, but 3,000 years ago in ancient Greece, before
Yeah.
the precession of the equinoxes, the stars were in different places. They do move. And so you want to look at where they're at right now. So if
And
you've got this,
if you read these astrology texts, it's almost certain that if they had better technology, they would be utilizing it for more
oh yeah,
accurate results. They're trying
yeah,
the astrology is the height of science in its day. So use
mm,
the height of science in your day.
absolutely, absolutely. But don't use astrology, especially heliocentric astrology. We want it like I've got a lot of astrologers I work with. I always encourage them to do sidereal work, which means again
Yeah.
you're looking exactly what's going on above you right now, not what happened all those years ago. I think there is a certain amount of accuracy that happens because if you're doing a reading for somebody, they will get the message they need. But if you want to have a look at what's happening around you and what's going to influence you, because above and beyond everything, I think what this work does is it ties you in. It makes you realize that you are a connected part of the entire universe, right? That there is a piece of every God inside you. That there is a theogony that happens
Yeah,
during
we are
this.
an aspect of the world soul, right? And
Yeah,
it's we've all been divided against ourselves.
yeah. So yeah, so doing that research, once you've done it, like look, you don't have to do the rituals that I found in the Greek Magical Papyrus. There are plenty in there. I'm certainly happy to share with the group the ones that I have found that have worked over the last 20 years for me. Yeah, and been working, well, 26 years. We've been doing them consistently since the year 2000. So, and they work really well. They come through
And
really
then
well.
one thing I want to ask you about before we leave from the PGM, because I've had, especially because I generally try to be a very moralistic person and try
Mm,
to ensure, like, we've had this discussion about love magic and such,
mm,
but, and my position, I avoid love magic. I don't necessarily view it as evil, but I do view it as something that can be extraordinarily dangerous. Now, the PGM goes way, way beyond love magic. And we have some truly horrific stuff. We have rights against children. We have the Sword of Dardanus, where it says you can bind a woman and drag her by the hair to you.
mm.
How do you reconcile some of this more intense magic? And what do you say to people who are afraid to engage with other aspects of the PGM because of its more dark and sinister connotations?
Well, it's like everything. I mean, any person can be dark and sinister. Like you and me, we're both friendly now, but don't get me upset.
Right, of course.
um, so what we're looking at with the PGM is that you've got to understand these are the working manuscripts of people who were working magicians. So they were going around, they were employed by people. It's like, so somebody has come to them and gone, this bitch won't love me, make her love me. The magician would have gone, are you sure? Do you want to accept the full consequences of this? because doing this, you know what's going to happen. Like you and I have done enough magical workings to know
Yeah.
if they do an aggressive magical working like that, they will get what they want for a limited time and it will bite them so hard afterwards. Aphrodite administers magical love justice. So if you have done that, right? Be aware of the consequences because there will be consequences. All magic, they talk about the law of three, but the law of three really is action, reaction, and cost. Newton was an alchemist and a magician, and that's what he's talking about: action, reaction, and cost. You're going to do this action, right? So this guy's got, you really want me to compel this person to you? What happens when they come out the other side? You're going to lose your house, you're going to lose your life, you're going to lose everything,
Look what happens to
and
Jason. He's left
exactly.
alone with his rotting ship and it crushes him to death, right?
That's right. Exactly. So there is a negative side to, if you're doing negative love magic, the magicians would have told them you will have to accept the consequences. We can force this to happen. Sure. Do you really want to accept those consequences? Because they won't be pleasant long term for you. And I think that doing the Hermetic workings, you get to feel this with the gods. They like you, they're really nice, but you don't want to do the wrong thing by them, right?
Right.
Or other people, especially if that other person is a working magician. Because if they like that other person, you're setting yourself up for a really big fall.
Right. And then
So
are there any energies that you believe are more, let's say, for the more advanced practitioner that people shouldn't begin with? And are there more beginner energies? How do you view this
let's
from your
say this at the
perspective?
same time. 1, 2, 3, Saturn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not a beginner
leave
energy.
No, leave it till last. Do the other ones first. Do the other one first. Yeah, and it's interesting because my group's really, because I've, as soon as you say to a group leave Saturn to last, they all like, what are we going to do Saturn? The best time Saturn is actually aspected for a next big working is August, I think.
Mhm.
So there's a big period. There's a big period where they can wait before they get
Right.
there.
Yeah. I
So
definitely caution people. Saturn will sever your connections and will isolate you. He'll give you the wisdom you seek, but you're going to be alone and decrepit, and people are going to think you smell.
but even
You know,
like my
if you don't know
experience
what you're
with
doing.
Saturn was quite positive.
Hmm.
He, but it is about the end of those cycles, those 7-year cycles that he brings in. So he will bring those, and if you're asking for justice, you will get justice, but it will be a two-edged sword. He's good at binding energies and taking people out of your life. You better make sure you don't want to ever see them again. Um, he is, yeah, he's got a good old man, but good old man with a sense of humor. Like if you've got an uncle that you don't want to mess with, that's got a good sense of humor, that's the kind of energy that Saturn is. He's
Right.
very strong, and the little mill, you actually call Mars in to help you because he is such a strong energy. So you're calling one deity in to make sure the other deity doesn't get out of control. But if
Right.
you've got unfinished business in your life, he brings that to conclusion. So that's why it gets messy for so many people. So
And
yeah, and that period helps you prepare for that. So if you leave
right.
it at the end, yeah.
I always recommend people too, if they want to start with something really simple. One of the first spells that I ever tried with the PGM before I did anything really intense. I'm just trying to look up what the number is. It's the dream spell where you take a piece of tin and you inscribe it with a brass thing, and
Mhm.
you put on all of this Voces Magicae.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful,
That
so here it is. PGM, and it's from books uh 740 to 55. This
Mhm.
one will send you dreams, and it's pretty easy to do. I've used tinfoil and a magic marker, and it worked fine. And you just stick the
Yeah.
tin under your bed,
Uh-huh.
or under your pillow, and there
Yeah,
you go.
you get little sheets of tin off Timu and you get like just for cents. They said they come within a week, so it gives you time to
Right.
plan and prepare.
Right. It's hard to find tinfoil nowadays. It took me a little while to find it, but
Hmm.
you can still
Hmm.
get it.
Yeah,
Usually it's aluminum foil, right? But hey.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, the cans that food comes in are usually tin, so you
Right.
can yeah usually use those.
That's true.
They've got a lining. But but yeah, but I always say start with the sun. The sun is
Mm,
expansive, gives blessings, helps with money, helps with baking your health. It helps with things going well in your life. In fact,
right. And it's so
the last
immediate. That energy is already present in your life. It's like,
like
you know,
we had like if your business you need help with your business, it's good with that. But we had one of the girls in the working. She was about 3 years ago. She's in a car accident. She's terrible neck pain, terrible lower back pain. She could hardly move. She did this, and her only thing she was saying to Helios was, "It's time to heal." She finished the work. We went up to the crossroads at the end of the working to have a look out. She was up ahead of us. She was walking ahead of us. She was like, "My pain's gone. My pain's gone." It can be very immediate, right?
oh,
Especially when you're just asking for something that's very reasonable, something that's you're not being greedy. Gods don't like you being greedy.
no, this is something that people need to truly right? When we're talking about Hellenism,
Mhm,
what are the two greatest sins in Hellenism? Hubris and greed. But
mhm,
specifically, it's the greed that reduces the can't remember the Greek word. I'm trying to remember. It's
mhm,
prosenic, I can't remember, but it means the greed that reduces a person to an object. If you
mhm,
reduce another to and you objectify them, if you turn them into a slave, it's the worst
mhm.
thing you can do, right? So don't be in that greed. Don't be in hubris. Be humble, be respectful, and all of this should go fine,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah. And if you're not a humble person, the
Thank
gods
you.
will teach you.
Pleonexia. Pleonexia is the word. So
Oh,
that's the
thank
type
you.
of greed. The greed that
Thank you.
reduces the other.
Yeah, yeah. And the gods will humble you. They will teach you to be humble. Oh, yeah, there it is. It's popped up on mine now.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah, start with the Helios working. Also, create a good, clean space. So don't want any distractions. You want it to be clean. You want it to be clear, and that helps you get your mind clean and clear as well. Yeah, the actual act of cleaning, I find. I don't mind cleaning. People think I'm crazy, but the actual act of cleaning helps me clear my mind and get ready for something. It's part of my ritual preparation.
Well, this
Yeah.
is something like if you're going to do, right, like traditional home ritual practice, right, at your
Mhm,
altar, this is
mhm.
something that you should be doing once or twice a day, cleaning your
Yeah,
altar
yeah,
space, right, as
yeah,
part of the ritual workings,
yeah.
just to be a good, hospitable. Remember too, right? We talked the two greatest sins. We also have to talk about the highest virtue, and the highest
Mm.
virtue is hospitality. And so
Yes.
you got to be hospitable to the gods and
Yeah,
make your place beautiful for them.
I was listening to this bizarre thing online telling me, yeah, they're trying to tell people that there were no virtues before there was Christianity and how
Oh
Christianity
my
civilized the
God.
world. And I was going, have they heard of like Greek hospitality? Find me a Christian that does Greek hospitality. Oh my God, you
Right?
don't see
And
that.
this is the thing is that the Christians think that love your neighbor shit came from Jesus and not from Dionysus,
I
who
know.
is the everyone,
Yeah.
right?
Or Zeus, Zeus
Or
and
Zeus,
Zeus
right?
and Zeus and
All of the
Hermes used to
gods.
dress as they would put on, the garments of a peasant and they go from door to door to see if somebody was doing hospitality properly, so you got tested by the gods. I always when I was doing these big festivals, I always used to look around for a homeless person and my husband would go, what are you doing? I go, if I get them a cup of coffee, the day's going to be good for me. I know, because you never know if you're buying Zeus a cup of coffee.
Right. And
So,
this is something that's really big with the Saturnian worship too, with Saturn
mm,
magic.
yeah,
If you want the Saturn magic to work, go make a donation first. Go
yeah,
do something
yeah,
kind
yeah,
first, right?
yeah, yeah.
There's all
But that
kinds of stuff.
I'll just show people over there. So I'll see if I can see. That's my altar over there. Right. So
Mm.
it's a major part. It is. I don't clean it twice a day, but I
Some
do.
people.
But I do. Oh, I just lost you. Are you still there?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
still here. I think
Okay.
your image disclosed. What I do is I
Yeah.
just wipe mine down. I light my candle twice a day, and I wipe
Yeah.
the incense away twice
Yeah.
a day. I put
Yeah.
the gods
I have
to
a little.
sleep at night. You know.
I keep the incense dust and I put that
Mm.
across my entranceways to my house, and nothing.
Oh,
No, yeah. No, so it's an old thing. So nothing comes in unless you invite it. All right. So it won't come past the blessed the incense, the vibhuti. Yeah. So but yeah, every morning, lighting incense is a process of cleaning because it burns up the methane in the house from the people overnight, and it leaves that beautiful fragrance in the air. So, lighting the incense and putting it in front of them. And I have a big painting that I did of Ashtar, and she's just at my entrance there. So I'll make sure I put some incense in front of her, make sure she's nice and cleansed with smoke. Yeah, so that's and I have my bells, my gongs that I play over there. So I open the portals because that's the other thing that makes a beautiful harmonic sound is a bell.
right,
So
right,
it opens a portal. That's why they're sacred to so many traditions. Because if they're lazy and they don't learn how to do the harmonics themselves, you can use a bell. And has anybody ever held a bell and done round slowly so you get the harmonic sound growing? You know,
right. Or with
learn to do it.
those bowls, right? Like you get the
Yeah.
singing bowl. I mean, that's a more
See,
modern thing, but it's still pretty beautiful.
yeah, still harmonic sound, still opens portals. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're coming up here to 2 hours, Shay. So I think we should start to wind down. Is
Yeah.
there anything you want to leave our audience with the Hermetic magic or with
Um,
the earlier shorts that we were discussing?
well, I really like, I know Pate has been working on this program, and that's
Oh, I'm
really
so
what,
excited for that. It's going to be
yeah,
amazing.
that's what prompted our discussion to do this was like he's put in languages and sources, but now he's working with music as well.
Right.
And so I'm so interested to see what's going to come out of this with the music.
Right.
Is he going to open a portal permanently? Wah, wah, wah.
Well, right, what the PGM clearly tells us, if you can find the name, if you can find
Yeah,
that vibration, then all
yeah,
of a sudden you can command that deity. So
yeah.
what are we going to find going to the depths of the language roots, right?
Oh my goodness. Well,
Really, really beautiful.
I mean, I think my next video is going to be on the real Jehovah's true name is Zeus.
Mm,
And a lot of people don't get that, but the four letters were the four letters of Zeus's name. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and again, a deity that's been, let's control him to try and get him to control everybody else. He's not interested in doing all that stuff that Christianity wants him to do. But yeah, no,
No, but he is interested in preventing succession and ensuring his eternal reign. That we
yeah,
know about Zeus.
yes, 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 yes. But in the end, he does take Dionysus into Olympus. So yeah,
He
so he's sort
does,
of
but Dionysus doesn't succeed him. He also allows Athena to be born from his mind, but she doesn't exceed him either, does she?
no, she's got a Yellowstone daddy complex, I think. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Do
right.
you get Yellowstone in Canada?
No, what do you mean?
Oh, it's a series with Kevin Costner and his
Oh,
daughter.
oh, yeah, okay, okay. I
Yeah,
know what you're
his daughter
talking about.
Beth is the Athena in that. Yeah,
Okay.
Beth is the Athena.
I,
Yeah.
I I have a thing. Okay, I can't handle cowboy culture. It's the last thing I want to listen to is some angry old man complain about how everyone outside of his immediate world is stupid. And it seems like
Mm.
90% of the characters on that show, that's the mentality. And I'm just like,
Oh,
I'm not interested.
yeah. Well, she comes out. My husband's obsessed with it, but and we're actually working on a Kevin Costner movie at the moment.
Oh
So
wow,
in
congratulations.
Australia,
That's a
yeah,
big deal.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it is a big deal, and we're really happy about that. But Beth in that, she is very
Mm,
much. like they talk about commedia dell'arte from Italy being the basis of our modern sitcoms. But where did that come from? It came from Greek,
Yeah,
you
theater.
know,
All of
theater.
those characters
Yeah,
were already established within street performance for
yeah,
hundreds of
yeah,
years,
yeah.
if not
And
thousands.
Beth is the Athena. Like she defends her father. She's the lawyer, and she's like the warrioress, right? And she's got her lover who is the Mars, who's not real bright but very strong and does whatever she says. And she's the Athena in that. So yeah.
That's
So if people
beautiful.
want to, yeah, if you want to understand these, the archetypes are in theatre. They do put the archetypes across in there. So mm,
Yeah. All right,
the
Shay. Well, this has
persona.
been so
Yeah.
much fun. And do you have anything you want to promote before we call it?
No, just if people want to join in with the Hecate working when we
Mhm.
get her to come along, yeah, just leave us, give me a direct message. Is that what you call it
Yeah, DM.
on?
So everyone
Yeah,
can contact Shay. The easiest way
yeah,
to get a hold of her is through the Discords. She has her
mm,
own Magic Magazine Discord. She's on the Lady Babylon Discord. She's also on my Discord, the Temple of the Muses. You can find her at
mm,
Magic Magazine. Or, of course, you can email her through her website and her YouTube, which is at Magic Magazine on
mm.
YouTube. Um, she's on every platform. You can also buy all of her books on Amazon. You're everywhere.
Yeah. It used to be a really popular, but I'm enjoying the quiet life now.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
get to that space where I can just focus on learning my Greek. I'll be happy. Clear all the
Amazing.
clutter out of my life.
Right? Always something to learn, though. That's
Yeah,
something I'm always impressed with you is you're always reading and you're always
yeah,
expanding,
yeah,
like really, really
yeah,
beautiful. Well, thank you so
yeah.
much, Shay, for coming on. I'm glad that we decided to do this. I really,
Yeah,
really
I am
appreciate it.
too. I enjoy your energy so much, and I have to thank you for helping me with Discord because I had no idea. I was really doing, like old woman syndrome with that, and you really helped me with that. So I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad to see you on there and participating because, for whatever reason, Discord is the platform that people have chosen for this
Mm,
stuff, and it's a
yeah,
great community. So
yeah.
everyone should
We used,
go and hop
yeah.
on.
Yeah, we used to do like the Yahoo groups in the old days. And this is
Right.
I get the same sort of vibe from the Discord as the old Yahoo groups. I really miss them when they disappeared. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right. For a
yeah,
while, there was stuff on Facebook, but Facebook is just too intrusive into people's lives.
yeah.
Whereas, like Discord, I can just go to one of these forums
Mhm,
and just get that.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, this
Good.
was so much fun, Shay. So thank you so much. And everyone, make sure you go subscribe to Magic Magazine and follow Shay. She's
Mhm.
always producing beautiful content. All
All
right,
right.
everyone.
Thanks, darling. We love you. We love you, Snappy.
Love you too, Shay. Take
See you,
care.
everyone. See ya.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.